Great. Thank you, RX. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Welcome. Like RX said, this is Making Data Packs for YouTube, also known as How We Make Data Packs for YouTube. My name is Kanokarob, and I'm presenting this panel on behalf of log.zip Studios. Before we really dive in, I do want to make sure we have some initial understandings covered. For one, I will not be able to see chat. I have F1 on just to make sure that I can stay focused on you guys and on the presentation here. And I also do not have the voice proximity mod enabled right now, so I won't be able to hear you. But there will be a Q&A session at the end to be able to ask your questions. Additionally, I want to preface and make sure that everyone understands that this is going to be primarily about from the perspective of how we at log.zip Studios create data packs, sort of our process, both creative and developmentally. But the goal is hopefully that there will be takeaways for you for how you create your data packs that you have for public download, or even ones that you do create for YouTube. We'll have sort of how you can take the concepts that we talk about here and implement those for those projects at the end. So if everyone understands that, then we will get started here. Okay. So real quick, just to have an overview of what we're going to cover here, we'll start off by introducing myself and the rest of the log.zip team and get an understanding of sort of what that all entails. And then we'll talk about the kinds of data packs that we make for videos, how we pick the ideas for these projects, as well as what tools we use to develop, and how we sort of standards that we have for developing for a visual medium, as opposed to a gameplay medium from a pack that you might create or download for your own single or multiplayer play. And at the end, we will talk about, again, like I said, how you can take these concepts and implement them into the projects that you create to try and attract an audience. So we'll start off, who is log.zip Studios? So of course, like I said, I'm Kanokarob. I'm the lead developer here at log.zip Studios. I've been with the company for 3 years. And in that time, I've had a direct hand in about 67 projects, a little bit more than that by now. But as lead developer, that also means that I supervise the development and art team, provide feedback and tools and tips for all of the projects that go through our departments, as well as review all of the outlines that come in from the writing team for the kinds of projects, the videos that we intend to make, as well as assign those to the respective teams. When it comes to the teams that we have, our development and art team is made up of 4 developers besides myself, 2 modelers and artists who are also our animators, and 2 designers. One of those level designers is also our lead of art. So he assists me in supervising the other level designer and the 2 modelers/artists in particular. It also helps review those outlines as they come in, assigns projects that are primarily art focused or level design focused, that don't either have any or very little development need. Now, of course, this project or this panel is going to be primarily about the development and art team, since that's, of course, where I have the most expertise in, and what is most directly applicable to what you guys do every day. But the log.zip Studios team is much larger than that. We also have 2 writers who come up with all of the ideas for videos that we create, write the outlines that ultimately get assigned to our development art team, as well as 5 editors to put together all the footage that our various actors record playing with our projects, 2 thumbnail artists to create the thumbnails, as well as additional graphics across all of our channels, all of the channel icons, banners and stuff on YouTube, things like that. And many, many more team members that I don't have the time or the space to mention here. If you do want to learn more about the development and art team in particular, we do also have a log.zip booth that is in the town biome on the server over on the west side, just beside Game Mode 4 and Mechanization. Overall, the entire log.zip team is international. We have team members here in the United States that are full-time employees. They get benefits, pay taxes, all that stuff. But we also have team members that are independent contractors all over the world. Some in Thailand, in Germany, other parts of Europe, everywhere across the globe. And overall, the entire log.zip team has been responsible for over 500 projects just in the last 3 years that I have been with the company. Talking a bit about some of our channels that we have, obviously the titular log.zip channel was our flagship channel that ultimately spawned all of the other channels into the entire company. that has grown around them. That was started by Tyler and was played by him as well, who of course now serves as our CEO. This channel is not currently active as we are primarily focusing on our other channels that are, just have a lot more going on with them in terms of audience and in terms of creativity. We also have the Crafty channel. This is certainly our biggest one and has our biggest focus right now. Crafty, unlike log.zip and unlike a lot of channels, which are a lot more personal, it's started by a single person. Crafty is more of a character. It was started by the company, by a team, and really is a whole team. An entire team makes up Crafty. Crafty is not an individual person. So regardless of who is recording the gameplay, who is doing the voice, who created the map, who created the data pack and the models that Crafty plays with and takes the form of sometimes. Crafty is an entire team of people. The Crafty channel sees Crafty, the character, going through a variety of challenges and other adventures, all under this sort of Minecraft butt packaging. Some of you might cringe a little bit at that, but really the Minecraft butt packaging is what works as far as YouTube titling works. The scope and the level of content that exists in these videos and in these projects is really much more on the scale of something like an adventure map, just to kind of put in perspective there. And then the last channel that we'll mention here is Kipper. Kipper also is sort of in this vein of Kipper is a character, not a person, and so also is represented by an entire team of people. The Kipper channel, the content that we display there, has Kipper redesigning mobs, typically with the entity model features mod, to turn them into new and interesting designs, and then testing them out either in single player or by challenging his friends to try and defeat them or otherwise engage with them. Kipper, even more so than Crafty, is a great representation of this idea that the character is a whole team of people, because on Kipper, we also show the footage of the mob being remodeled or modeled from scratch sometimes in Blockbench. And those clips, that footage that you see, is the actual modeler / artist creating that model. They are, in those moments, playing the role of Kipper. Even if they are not doing the voice, they are the character. So what kinds of data packs do we make kind of across all of our channels? Well, the types of data packs that make for good videos, at least as far as these content style entertainment videos that we create, are visual. They tell a story, have a clear goal and incremental progress towards that goal. They have a mix of familiar and unfamiliar elements. Some of you might call this Vanilla Plus, but ultimately that means we have things that are really obviously from Minecraft, and also things that are a twist on what people expect from Minecraft. And then most importantly, the kinds of content, the kinds of data packs that make for good videos are easy to explain. And to kind of give an example of this, we have a few thumbnails and titles here from across our various channels. We're not going to go over all of them here, but if we look at that top one, this is the thumbnail and the title for a Crafty video called Minecraft, But I Own a Zoo. And the title, the thumbnail, they kind of work together to really, again, easily explain what is going to happen in that video and visually explain what's going to happen in that video. And you can tell that it's going to have a mix of familiar and unfamiliar elements. Obviously, we have vanilla mobs. Crafty, the character, has opened a zoo. That is the unfamiliar element, but is going to, indicated by the arrow, go out to the vanilla overworld, collect these vanilla mobs, and bring them back to the zoo in order to fill up those enclosures. And through that is going to otherwise engage with the zoo to continue to fill the enclosures, clean it up, and make it habitable, profitable, and educational. So how do we come up with ideas for our projects? Well, we obviously have a number of formats that we return to regularly. Things like one block, shop projects, custom hearts projects are our bread and butter. And so when we return to those formats, we try to apply a new theme to them that can work in the title and draws the whole project in under a like umbrella. So for example, if we're making a new one block project, we might do a TNT one block. We would do a hearts one block after that, and maybe a diamonds one block after that. But each of these new themes that gets applied is not just a reskin. It's not just changing the resource pack and everything else works the same. For every new project, whether it's a new format or an old one, we are completely building the data pack up again from scratch. And we make sure that there are differences in the progression and the items that get used to keep the experience, the viewing experience and the gameplay experience fresh and fun for the viewer and for our actors who serve as the player. For new formats and themes, obviously we want to try new things all the time to, as our audience gets used to the formats and the videos that we've been creating, we want to excite them with new things that come up. And so for those new formats, when we do come up with new ideas, we want to make sure that we're considerate of what the title and the thumbnail options are going to be and make sure that they're actually representative of what's going to be in the video. To put it simply, we make an effort to avoid clickbait. It's a common misconception that YouTube videos, especially very popular YouTube videos, employ clickbait very intentionally to try and get more views. But ultimately, clickbait is very bad for the success of a video. Even if you do get a high number of views by saying the thumbnail or the title that something that's in the video is not, those views are for a very short amount of time. As soon as people realize that that's not what the video they're getting is not what they signed up for, they're going to leave. And that's going to make that video perform much worse. So we want to make sure when we are coming up with a new style of content that the thumbnail actually shows what the viewer is going to get. And we actually do create the things that we promise in the title. Now, regardless of what whether we're doing a new format or an existing format, we always want to make sure, even before we start writing, before we start developing, we want to be considerate of what is the player's goal going to be, because that's going to ultimately play into especially the first few minutes of the video, because if the viewer doesn't understand what the video's purpose is, then they're going to stop watching. We also want to make sure that we know how the player is going to be progressing. If the player says, oh, I'm going to beat the Ender Dragon, but they're doing nothing related to that throughout the entire project, then there's no reason to keep watching. You can either skip to the end just to see how the Ender Dragon gets beaten, or you're going to be annoyed that we're not doing anything that we said or making any progress towards that and leave. And then lastly, of course, we want to make sure that it actually feels like Minecraft. If we add too many things that don't feel like they belong, or to the point where it's like a complete overhaul of the game that people are familiar with, that is no longer what people are interested in, what they signed up for. They want to watch Minecraft videos, not videos that happen to be in Minecraft. So how do we develop our data packs? We use a number of tools across all of our projects. Some of them every project, some of them only depending on the type of video that type of format that we're doing. But one that we do use for every single project is MC Build. MC Build is a preprocessor. They have a booth here at the Smith Summit. And we use it primarily because it accelerates our workflow. MC Build as a preprocessor allows us to write our data packs in a single file instead of, dozens perhaps of function files, perhaps even more function files. As of recent updates, you're even able to make advancements and loot tables and all of that directly in a single MCB file. And so that just eases navigation throughout the whole data pack to just a scroll bar. And there's a lot of tricks you can do. A little hard to tell from the screenshots here because they're so small, obviously. But you might be able to tell on this first one that we have a big old load and a big old tick and a big old tick player there. Those are just some comment lines just to help us indicate as we're scrolling through this massive file, okay, this is where this function is. And that speeds up having to go and hunt down that function in the VS Code file editor. We also use it because of its approachable language. Unlike other preprocessors, MC Build is is written in normal MC function, in normal Minecraft commands, more or less. And so it makes it much more approachable for our development team rather than having to use more traditional programming languages that are more powerful, but also, maybe perhaps less accessible. And sort of as an offshoot of that, because we are writing in normal MC function and normal commands, that also makes it a little easier to optimize. All of our projects at this point are multiplayer compatible. They are all played on a server for various reasons. And so we need to make sure that we're keeping optimization in mind, and having a better idea of what that final output is going to look like at compile time makes it a lot easier to do that. And the last reason we use MC Build is that it simplifies reusing of assets and features between projects. Obviously, if you make a custom item, even now with 1.21.2 plus, if you make a poisonous potato that has right-click functionality and use an advancement that detects when that happens, then a function that runs after that, it's multiple files that you have to grab in order to reuse that somewhere else and copy them into a different project. But if it's all in one file, even if it's a really long one, if they're all grouped together, you can just copy and paste that whole thing and paste it into the new file, and then you're done. Some other tools that we use, it should be pretty obvious if you do watch our videos. If you don't, it's no harm done. But we do use mods in addition to data packs. This is done for a variety of reasons, either for features that are not possible with data packs, but are otherwise very visual and very preferred for the types of video content we're creating. Got to remember we're creating video for entertainment, not for gameplay purposes. So these dependencies aren't a big deal for us. But also we use them sometimes to improve our workflow, to accelerate our workflow in order to do things that are possible with data packs, but are maybe a little bit too time consuming to do all the time, or otherwise really difficult to do, with the performance that we would need for, again, working in multiplayer. Some examples of this are Figura. This is a mod that allows us to change the player model. We use this a lot for our evolving type projects so that we can have the player go through various stages of shapes and forms. We also have Pakui. We still use this quite a lot. This is a mod that allows for various scale changing. Even though Minecraft now has the scale attribute, we do use that sometimes as well. Pakui has a few advantages in that there are more factors that we're able to scale, things like scaling the hitbox independent of the model size. And it also allows for interpolation between scales, which the scale attribute in Minecraft does not. We also use internal mods that we've created in-house by some of our developers to do a variety of things. Again, primarily things that are technically possible with data packs, but that are simply too time-consuming for the rate that we need to be outputting projects. So for example, we have a mod that we developed in-house that adds motion commands, and those motion commands are compatible with the player. We could be using a motion library, but that's a lot more hassle, a lot more performance, and then we are able to justify for the rate that we need to be creating projects. Our in-house mods also allow us to add custom particles, command aliases, again, for accelerating workflow. Instead of writing scoreboard every time we need to use a scoreboard command, we can just write SP. And then custom overlays, we use that a lot for instances where, yes, you could use a custom font, but that requires maybe coordination with the artist who needs to know what size and format and offset to be able to use for that font character, when we could otherwise just have them make the texture as they normally would, just normal PNG, and then we can display that with a custom overlay. And many, many, many more features, far too many to explain. If you want to learn more about that, you can talk to some of the devs that are here throughout the summit. An honorable mention here to animated Java. Obviously, if you've explored the summit at all, animated Java is incredibly powerful. Almost every booth is using it, and it's, we would not be where we are as a company without it. We don't use it as extensively anymore because we have developed some in-house mods to be able to render, in particular, mobs, animated mobs, much more performantly and with much more control than animated Java allows, at least particularly easily. But we do still use it periodically for smaller animated features that are animated mobs mod is either too powerful or at that point too complicated to use compared to animated Java. So definitely a very powerful tool if you aren't familiar with it. If the summit hasn't already proven how useful it is, we have used it extensively and we do still use it here at log.zip. So how do we develop our projects for visuals? How do we develop data packs knowing that this is for a visual medium for YouTube rather than for the player's gameplay? Well, we have a number of goals that our various team members sort of try to keep in mind, standards that they try to adhere to, and we're developing each and every project. We have some examples here. So when it comes to our developers, any single player action that is being taken, anytime the player interacts with a mob or an item, anytime they're using a custom item, interacting with an entity or block in the world, we want to make sure that there is both an audio and a visual cue that something has occurred. Obviously can't really demonstrate the audio cue here, but we can see with this custom pickaxe, obviously if we're breaking tons of blocks, that's generating particles on its own, the block breaking particles, but we want to add even more than that to add just a little bit more excitement and that feedback that something is happening, something intentional is happening. And so we use these, in this example, explosion particles, but we have all kinds of different items and behaviors that would justify using particles for and different kinds of particles for. One other thing that we do that might be, to some might seem obvious, to some might seem kind of strange, but we do try to ensure that we're using text to explain how something works or what's going to be happening pretty much whenever we're able to, whenever it makes sense to. This may seem strange knowing that this is for a visual medium for YouTube. You would think this concept of show, don't tell might take over. But importantly, text serves two purposes. First, it informs the actor, the player that is speaking to the audience and telling them what's going on. It prompts them that there is something that they ought to share, that there's something that's going to be happening that they either need to be aware of that's going to occur, or they need to explain to the audience in an entertaining way what's going on. And then additionally, it allows us to cut to it either when the talent intentionally does not know what's going on, or otherwise at the same time, so that they can also feel like they are involved and understand what's happening. So using text either for tooltips so that they know how an item works, or for various events that might occur as a project is going on. Boss bars that have custom names to indicate that there's a timed challenge occurring. All these text visuals are still visuals that we need to take advantage of when we're developing projects. For our modelers and artists, they have a number of goals as well that should feel very familiar to anybody who has worked with resource packs before, who has worked especially with Vanilla Plus content data packs before. We have some clear examples here. Things that are custom items need to be recognizable as what they are, and they also need to feel like they belong in Minecraft. So this first item here should be immediately obvious. This is both a compass and it is somehow related to the end or to the end portal. It's using the same colors that the end portal does, possibly a few from Ender Pearls as well, has that purple arrow too. So it, that has association with Enderman teleporting, but clearly looks like a compass. When we're making custom creepers, this is just a retexture, but even if we're making, custom entity models, changing the model of a creeper, we want to make sure that it's keeping the core features that make a creeper recognizable. It would have that traditional creeper face. Almost always it's going to have 4 legs. It's going to have that long body. You should be able to tell, even from behind, even in darkness, that that is a creeper, regardless of what material it's made of. And then with this last item over here, this is an example of sort of a common Vanilla Plus idea that's also employed by Minecraft when they're making new models. We try to avoid over-voxelization. It would be very easy to make this lock on the side of this cannon here a separate cube, or even several separate cubes on the side here. It would have been very easy, perhaps these grates towards the back on the side there, to make those indented a little bit into the model, but that would make the model overcomplicated, which is bad for timeliness, to be able to, again, be sure that we're outputting projects at the rate that we need to be, and it also just would not feel like Minecraft. And then for our level designers, these are really the unsung hero of our projects. Every single project, regardless of how cool the mob is, how cool the items are that are being used, if there isn't a cool scene for those to be utilized in or used in, then the entire thing would truly fall apart. And so our level designers have a number of goals that they try to adhere to as well. We have this example here for these first 2 pictures. Anything that they're building, obviously, it's so easy to build something that looks beautiful and exciting and interesting from above, but they also need to look clear and obvious and exciting from ground level, because that is where the player, where the actor is going to be viewing it from, and therefore where the viewer is going to be seeing it from. So making sure that it looks good from both the air and the ground is important. Whether it's replay footage or first-person footage, the build needs to look nice, and it needs to be clear what it is. And then this top right image here, a little hard to see perhaps at this scale. If you have a zoom mod, I recommend zooming in a little bit. But we have these pedestals here, and there's some dirt blocks in the middle here. This is an example of making sure that the intended path is both immersive and obvious. This is really useful for map making, level designing. Obviously, we call them level designers, not builders, for a reason, because it needs to be clear to the player, to the actor, as well as to the audience, what is supposed to be happening, so that even if the actor either doesn't understand what they're supposed to do next, where they're supposed to go next, or how, or the is intentionally omitting this information, the viewer should be able to identify, oh, there's some dirt blocks there. We just got a custom item that grows saplings on dirt blocks into trees. So we must need to use that in order to make some trees to elevate up to that second floor, which again, you might not be able to see at this scale and resolution here. But so especially for obstacles, especially for puzzles, the viewer needs to be able to identify without being told what the intended route is, even if they don't necessarily know how to engage with it. But ideally, they would also be able to know how to engage with it, or at least be able to theorize so they can be excited for, if we did not have that power yet, we encounter this room and get that power in a little bit. Oh, how are we going to engage with this? How are we going to get through this room? I'm excited to find out. And then the last image here, this isn't a super great example, especially again during the daytime in this image. But even though with the advent of light blocks and with full bright mods and things like that, anytime we are having a scene that is at night, we do still want, or supposed to be in darkness, we still want to be making sure that we're using darkness and organic light sources effectively and accurately. A scene that is supposed to be dark still needs to be visible. If we have a scene that's at night or in a dark cave, that footage is going to look awful unless we have some strategically placed torches and even low-level light blocks to still make the scene visible, viewable, and enjoyable while still keeping that atmospheric aspect to it. So how can you apply these concepts to your data pack? Well, before we dive into that, I do want you to sort of remember here, before we get into what you've learned here today and how you can apply it. This is our job. I mentioned before, we are full-time employees. We work 40 hours a week, 5 days a week on every single project. And we spend hundreds of hours per project across all of the team members, just among the development in our team, that touch any given project. That's not even counting the time that our writers spend coming up with the ideas for each individual project, that the editors spend putting together all the hours of footage that the actors have filmed, the time that our thumbnail artists are creating the thumbnail. So just because we are doing this full time does not mean that you should expect yourself to adhere to the same or be able to meet the same level of quality in the same length of time that we do. We have a lot more resources to be able to do short projects that are this scale, but you should feel empowered to take your time and put in the quality and scope that you feel it deserves. Additionally, of course, like I mentioned before, we use mods for our projects because they are not available for public download. We don't need to worry about dependencies, and they're ultimately for a visual medium. They are for entertainment on YouTube, but you don't have to use mods. Like I mentioned, almost all of the mods that we use, you can do those things with data packs. They just may require workarounds or additional libraries or other tools and resources that might be more complicated, require more performance impact perhaps, but absolutely doable. So if you keep your scope in mind, you can still do things on the same level of scale and quality that we do. And then lastly, of course, the concepts we're going to talk about here for how you can attract an audience with your data pack is primarily going to be with respect to content data packs, things that are sort of on the scale of adventure maps or things that do tell a story. Technical and quality of life data packs aren't necessarily going to need to follow these as closely because they attract audiences in a different way. So with that, how can you make your data pack to attract an audience? Well, the first thing you want to keep in mind is have an idea of what the name is going to be. Have a identifiable name for your project. Minecraft Butt works as a styling or as a packaging style, a titling style on YouTube, because that's sort of what that audience expects. But that is not what the audience expects for things that are available for public download. They want something that is recognizable, descriptive, and memorable, especially the memorable part, because that's going to help them remember which project, which data pack they're even engaging with once they get in game, so they can come back and give you a like and a favorite and get those notifications when you update. The content should be easy to describe. The description should not necessarily be in the name, but think of like a tagline that can go with your project. A couple or a sentence, maybe even just a few words. Adds new structures to the overworld. Lets you start your own village. Overhauls the nether. These are all really easy concepts to explain and to understand. They kind of excite the reader or viewer as to what it's going to entail, and helps them determine whether they're going to enjoy what they inevitably sign up for before they begin reading more about the details of what the project actually contains. The next thing, this is let the players engage with it as early as possible. This is a point that may be tough for some projects to be able to do, but also in theory should be something that you're keeping in mind and considering for what project you even want to create. If your goal is to build an audience and make a data pack that is played by thousands, hundreds of thousands of people, being able to let the player engage with that content as soon in a new world as possible is going to greatly improve those odds. There's a lot of reasons for this, but the two that we'll go over here, obviously, is that players may abandon your world, abandon their world before they even get a chance to engage with your content if it's too late. If you overhaul the Ender Dragon, if you add post Ender Dragon content to Minecraft, that is really exciting and engaging for the people that do play worlds that far, who are already maybe that far in their world. But I think we all know the general idea that there are perhaps the majority of Minecraft players have never beaten the Ender Dragon, have never been to the end, perhaps even have never been to the Stronghold. And so that is a large number of potential players, downloaders, who may still never beat the Ender Dragon and may still never experience your data pack, even if they download it. And that's, again, going to play back to whether they even remember that they downloaded it, whether they liked it, and then going back to your page to give you that engagement that's going to make it more attractive for future players. Additionally, as well, and this is relevant, a little bit more relevant to what we've been talking about, having a data pack that you can engage with early in a world is going to make your pack more attractive to other YouTubers. Here, we at log.zip Studios very rarely play with external data packs. Obviously, we have a team that we create every data pack for, but there are lots of YouTubers that do specifically play with external data packs, whether they're actually playing with them or just showcasing them or doing a whole Let's Play series with them. There are lots of people that are on the hunt for new talent and new projects to be able to show to their audience. And being able to have something that is easy to dive into, that they can just load up a new world and say, this is what's new. The less setup that they have to do, the more attractive that project is going to be for them to want to show it to their audience. Next up, have a clear goal for the player. This is exactly the same thing that we talked about at the beginning. If the player knows what they're playing your pack for, that is something that they want to be working towards. That's going to make that more attractive to them when they download it and when they play it. If they know, even if they did in particular, especially, I think we all understand, we all sort of recognize, even if we don't like saying it, nobody reads the description. Nobody reads the description for your project. And so you need to make it clear in the game what their goal is, what they're playing towards, to keep them excited and keep them playing. And another way to keep them playing is to give them that continuous progress. Let the player take active steps towards that goal and understand and realize that they are taking active steps towards that goal, that thing A unlocks thing B. Think of the Ender Dragon. If you get blaze rods, that is a step towards having an Eye of Ender. Get an Ender Pearl. That's the second step. You now have an Eye of Ender. Now you get to follow that to the Stronghold. Step 3, you get to go explore the Stronghold, find the portal, and fill it. Step 4, now you're at the goal, and you've made progress every step of the way towards that. Now, with that said, you want to provide that continuous progress, but you also want to be able to let them engage at their own pace. They shouldn't feel rushed, and they should also feel able to step away, to ignore your pack for a little bit, go do something else, maybe play with a different data pack on the same world, and then come back to it and not feel like they've missed anything or that they have been punished for not engaging with the pack if something has progressed without them, if the difficulty has scaled without them keeping up. So let players be able to engage at their own pace and step away if they want to, because that's going to make that more attractive when they do come back. They're going to appreciate that the pack let them do that. The next thing includes strong visual elements, and I have these ordered. It's not, I don't think anyone wants to admit this, but some visual elements are stronger than others. And so being able to include strong visual elements that are representative of your pack is important, and being able to represent them on your download page is important. So while World Gen single-handedly is, by a wide margin, the most attractive thing you can put in a screenshot to advertise your pack, obviously not every pack is a World Gen pack. And so if you don't have World Gen in your pack, that's not a problem. Models are still a very good and strong visual element that you can include. If you have a custom item, give it a custom model, and spend the time to make sure it looks nice. And then when you get that model finished, make sure that you're taking good screenshots of it. And we'll get into that in a second more. Builds as well, also strong visual elements, especially for packs that are very structure focused, but they're not necessarily going to be as strong as models. So if your pack has models and builds, maybe try to prioritize showing those models, but give them a nice scene in one of the builds. And then particles I'll mention here is the last. This is a great visual element that is absolutely necessary. Like I said at the in the development goals slide, having that visual feedback for when the player engages with something in your pack is very important. But particles do not make for good screenshots. So include particles, include those visual elements, but don't rely on them as the only visual thing in your pack. With that said, let's move into talking about taking strong screenshots. You want to make sure you're taking screenshots of the strong visual elements, the strongest visual elements that your pack has to offer, and you want to make sure they look good. Don't take screenshots at night. Don't take screenshots in a plains biome. Build a nice little scene for them. It doesn't have to be complicated. A little, set. If you've seen a behind the scenes of a TV show set, 3 walls, a floor, and no ceiling is perfectly fine to take some nice screenshots. And when you do, if you can take screenshots with shaders, definitely recommend it. Whether or not you take screenshots with shaders, do a little bit of photo editing. Open up paint.net and up the saturation a little bit. There's nothing wrong with that. Minecraft colors are identifiable, they're recognizable. They're also very muted. And so they don't stand out as well when you put them online, when you view them on a screen that isn't in the game. And so upping that brightness, upping that saturation, that contrast is not deceptive. It is allowing your work, your visual elements to stand out. And then the last thing I'll say here, this is a bit of a potentially contentious one. Leave room to update. This is important for 2 reasons. First is being able to actually finish your pack. If you have this idea for this incredible overhaul system that makes Minecraft an RPG with skills and skill trees and stats and things that you can level up over time, that is incredible and it's going to be popular when it's finished. But make sure you actually finish it. Make sure you're considering the scope that you have in mind. And if there's something that you're going to want to add, but that doesn't need to be in the first version as you start building your audience, leave it out for now and come back to it. Add that in version 2, version 3. That allows you to actually have something out there that's going to start building that audience and player base. Additionally, of course, it's no secret, particularly on Planet Minecraft, where the default view is new and updated projects, updates attract new players. Now, obviously, this is something you do not want to and should not abuse. You should not be making an update that just changes the number of particles that your magic sword projects when it hits something. The updates that you do should be meaningful. They should add actual content to the pack. Now, obviously, bug fixes are required sometimes. Bugs happen, you need to fix them. And so that might be, those updates might not have any new content in them, and that's okay. But make sure you're actually pushing updates that are impactful and meaningful and important, that are worth bringing new players to the project. And that is all that I have for you. I'm going to go ahead and open up and start viewing chat now and invite RX back in to help me pick out some questions to answer.
Yeah, for sure. And I also know that if you wanted to show us any of your items as well, you can do that.
Oh yeah, let me see if I can grab one.
You have op, so. But yeah, thanks everyone for listening. I can see people are clapping by throwing their items. That's kind of fun.
Real quick, this is an example of an item that has that sort of visual and audio feedback. I don't think you guys will be able to hear it, and you won't be able to see all of the particles, but you'll be able to see every time I'm hitting, every time I'm right-clicking, then some particles are being displayed. I'm getting a hit sound effect. And so even though it would be clear to a player playing that, if you're attacking a mob with this ability, that they're getting damaged, having that visual, that audio feedback is important for the player to understand that something is happening.
Awesome.
But with that in mind, yes, let's go into question and answer time.
Yeah, I'll be looking at YouTube chat. I'll be looking at in-game chat and Discord chat. Are there any questions for Kano? Such a professional and well put together presentation as well.
Yeah, I hope everybody enjoyed. Let's see, I see in the Discord, the summit stage here. What is the target audience for your videos in terms of age? So we try to make our videos, sort of for all ages. Obviously, by virtue of being on YouTube, being Minecraft content, we try to target a bit of a younger age. We're not targeting really young, 5, 6 year olds. Definitely more in the early teens. I would say 12 to 16ish, 12-year-olds that are viewing on their parents' account, obviously, since you can't make a YouTube account until you're 13. But yeah, 12 to 16 is the range that we're aiming for. But we try to include things that are enjoyable for older audiences as well as younger audiences. Something I'll share real quick. We get plenty of comments from parents who say, oh, they love watching Crafty with their kids, with their young kids who, just enjoy watching, sort of will, enjoy watching whatever. But that family experience is something that we take a lot of pride in.
Cool. I got a question about, they said favorite booth, but I'll just leave it, your favorite data packs or other data packs maybe that the log.zip crew enjoy outside of doing work for log.zip Studios.
I think that's something that I can't really speak on behalf of the whole team for. We all have different preferences and experiences. I know a lot of our team really likes PvP a lot, so I think a lot of them do play with data packs that scratch that itch a little bit more, and on servers as well that scratch that itch. I know me personally, I'm a big fan of New in Town since I created it. I at this point can't play a world without it. And Mine Treasure, who unfortunately I don't think is represented at the summit here, but Mine Treasure is a really great booth that I really enjoy, or a really great data pack that I really enjoy.
And I've collected a bunch of questions in queue as I've seen them because that's my screen setup. So one of the next questions I saw is why log.zip Studios develops on Java instead of Bedrock.
Sure, that's a really great question. It's really multifaceted. For one, we find developing on Java is much easier than on Bedrock. Bedrock has a lot of really powerful tools available, particularly for custom entities. But if you visited our booth, you know that we have a sister company, .zip Developments, who is our Bedrock marketplace company, and they create projects that are available on the marketplace. And from my, talks with them as we have our, interdepartmental communications, there's a lot of things that they have to deal with that we simply don't because Java is better in as far as development goes. And so that's the main reason. The other reason is we have done some videos, some projects in Bedrock, in particular when our sister company does release new marketplace projects, we try to have a video that is Crafty or log.zip or Kipper playing it. And that's really great. And it does bring a lot of traffic to those projects. Those videos, as far as videos go, don't tend to perform very well. And the reason is that I think people don't tend to enjoy watching Bedrock content as much as Java content.
And I have a list as well if you want to use my list or if you want to go on your own.
Let's alternate, I think. I see a few here in the summit stage. Let me see here. I see a question. How do you feel about data packing as a full-time job? Do you think it's worth it? So I can't speak for the whole team. I hope the whole team enjoys working with me and working at log.zip. I think this is a dream come true. Being able to do my hobby as my full-time job is an incredible opportunity that I wish was more accessible and an opportunity that could be available to more people because there is just so much positivity in the space. It's so great to feel challenged, trying new things. When we do, whether we're making new projects or revisiting old formats, we always try to keep things fresh and try new things as new features get added to Minecraft, especially in the last year with data packs. We get to it's really nice as a data pack developer to not have to think about what I want to create especially when I want to test new features, and to have this, okay, we're creating this is our project for this week. And so here's everything that you need to do for it. And then you just kind of dive in and start developing. And you don't have to really stress a whole lot about, what is it that I want to make and how am I going to do that?
Cool. I see one question. I think another one a couple people have asked how creating content has adjusted over time with YouTube landscape changes with Minecraft updates, like working on the
How
latest versions.
which content? I'm sorry.
Oh, how like just creating content in
Okay.
general has changed over time with YouTube and Minecraft updates and trends and stuff like that. I've seen a couple of people ask about this.
That's a really great question. Yeah, it has changed quite a lot and is always changing. Certainly, we've sort of gone through a little bit of a cycle here, particularly at log.zip. There was a period of time where we were doing a lot of trend content, both on Crafty and Kipper, and that has a lot of especially short-term value. But sort of in the same vein that clickbait sort of has issues that aren't immediately obvious, we get way more views for a Poppy Playtime video than we do for a Minecraft, but I survive on one block video. But that that video is not going to perform long term as well. It's going to have a really positive start, and then as soon as that trend is over, it's going to sort of die out. Unlike something like Minecraft, but I survive on one block, that is going to be pretty evergreen. It's going to last. It's going to legacy, and people are going to want to watch it for months or years. Let's see. I'm checking the summit stage here for another question. I'll just do a quick clarifying question. I see someone asking, is this associated with the YouTuber people know? Yes, this is, I'm presenting on behalf of log.zip Studios, the log.zip channel. Log.zip as a channel isn't active anymore, currently active, but the company runs several other channels like Crafty. And so this panel, this information is all from the perspective of the company that creates those projects and those videos. But that was just a quick clarifying question. Let me grab another one here.
I saw one about accessibility that might be interesting from a point of view of a content creator. Just approaching accessibility for, I guess, a viewing experience.
I don't know that that's something that I can really speak on from a development perspective. I think that more has to do with a lot of the higher up sort of company decisions, especially with regards to other departments. What efforts editing puts into things like closed captioning and stuff. So it's not really something I have a whole lot of info on.
I think Kirsten question about modded shaders kind of hits some of that vanilla style feeling that you mentioned towards the beginning of your talk.
Yes.
Making that balance using mods, using data packs to
Right.
do new things without making it feel too new, I guess.
For sure, yeah. Well, on the Kipper channel, for those who don't watch, we have been our current sort of format that we've been doing videos for recently. Does use shaders. It's a lot more narratively driven. It's got multiple people in a much more built up world, exploring and engaging with the custom mobs that Kipper has created. And we do use shaders for that just kind of enhanced visual element. And those are Irish shaders. They're not core shaders. And so we do use them from time to time. We do also use core shaders occasionally as well. We've been experimenting with it a little bit now. It's very tough to get into, as if anyone who's gotten into core shaders might know. But we have been experimenting with finding ways to implement that into our Crafty projects too. And so I think there are ways to implement that feel still vanilla, but also can push the boundaries and be that sort of unfamiliar element in the familiar landscape. I see a question here. After the Minecraft butt trend dies out, what do you plan on doing? That's frankly a question that we don't have the answer to. We'll sort of have to figure that out when we get there. As it stands right now, Minecraft butt is, again, like I mentioned earlier, really more of a titling style rather than an actual type of content necessarily. And so if we find the title no longer works, we probably would try to stick with the same content, but with a different titling. And so it's really going to depend on what the viewers are interested in, what people like to watch and like to click on and watch for a long time. We try to make things that are entertaining to our viewers. And so if our viewers want something different, then we'll try to move in that direction. Going to try and scroll up and find any other questions, but I see a few other people trying to ask as well, or typing up some questions. So feel free to keep them going. We do still have a few minutes left in our time here.
Yeah. See one about, favorite data pack. I think people are interested in data pack, at least that you've maybe worked on as part of log.zip Studios.
Oh, sure. My favorite projects that I've worked on. Yeah, absolutely. So for me personally, like I said, so the team altogether has worked on over 500 projects. I've personally had a hand in only about 67. And that just speaks to the wide scope and breadth of the quantity of projects that the team overall produces. But one of my favorite projects was a crafty project called Minecraft, or Surviving Minecraft's Scariest Caves. It was pretty recent. That was a World Gen project, World Gen being one of my other big passions. And I had to really put into practice a lot of concepts that I was sort of aware of with World Gen, but I hadn't actually done yet, had a hands-on experience with yet, to create these, really dynamic cave biomes that were, had vertical slicing. So as you were higher up in the caves, different biomes appeared compared to lower down in the caves where things were maybe more dangerous, more volcanic. I think the biomes, the terrain turned out really, really well. It's something I'm really proud of. I see a question from Mr. Zero Skill, how data packs have been rapidly evolving these past couple of years, and what excites me about these changes. What am I looking forward to? I think it's been incredible, particularly the last year, how much has been made data-driven that previously wasn't. Custom enchantments are so powerful. And even if that's not something that we use a lot necessarily for our content, because, we could always say that we're making a custom enchantment as other data packs did before. Having all of these new tools and features opened up for us just makes me so excited for what more is going to be added. I think everyone, I think I speak for literally everyone when I say custom items, data-driven items are going to be the game changer that I think everyone's excited for. Perhaps only second to data-driven blocks, which is going to be especially great for elevating our World Gen content. Not a question, but want to shout out FetchBot, who's in the audience here. I really, really pleased with MC Build, and FetchBot and the MC Build team have been so communicative and active with us, sort of as we have been using their tool in the background for a long time. The tool is simply incredible as a preprocessor, and so I thank him so much for maintaining it, for creating it. If you haven't checked out the MC Build booth, if you haven't checked out MC Build period, strongly recommend it because it's just a great way, even if you don't necessarily need it for the accelerated workflow, having that just navigability and accessibility when creating new packs can be a massive game changer without needing to learn a new programming language.
Looks like we have around 5 minutes. I don't know if you wanted to stick around for the whole hour, Kano.
Maybe we'll do one more question. We'll let somebody get one in here, and then we'll see where it goes. Really great question from Linus Doc. How focused is the team with game balance? That's something I didn't get a chance to talk about here in the presentation, but game balance is really important to us. But what game balance means for our videos is different than what game balance might mean for a project that's available for public download. Obviously, we're creating these videos, again, talking about with that having a clear goal, having that continuous progression. And so we have to design the game balance, the balance of our projects, so that the actor who is playing it as a real player, they're diving in with essentially zero knowledge. They're still experiencing and engaging with it as a player would. But we need to make sure that they are able to make that progress and meet the goal of the project so that we can have a complete and satisfying video within a reasonable amount of recording time. We've had some projects. I don't think this is a big secret that I'm spilling here, but we had some projects that, the balance was a little bit off, and they took, maybe 6, 7, 8 hours to record, multiple sessions to record. And that's, an incredible amount of content for something that someone is downloading and playing over, multiple play sessions. But when we're trying to put out content and we're trying not to overwhelm our actors, that's quite a lot of time that they need to be sitting in front of Minecraft. And so we try to balance the gameplay so that they are able to meet the goal and make this progress at generally expected times in the video and actually be able to finish the video. But I think that's probably all that we have time for.
Awesome. That is so great. This was a fantastic panel. Thank you so much for taking some time to talk about what you do for log.zip Studios. And thank you for the audience over here for joining for this panel and listening about some Minecraft stuff. So big round of applause for our speaker here. And we're looking forward to the next panels that you can see in the minutes. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you guys so much.